Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devin Decker, and joining me today is a very, very bad man, Sejohn.
Oh God, what happened? What did I do? What did I
Why are
do?
you a very, very bad man? You're a very. I have restaurant. You tell me make Pakistani restaurant. I
Oh
make
my
Pakistani
God.
restaurant, but nobody come. No, 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 no. Sejohn is a very, very bad man. I can't
Oh
get out of it
God.
now. Oh, I didn't realize how much fun it would be. Um, Sejohn is a very, very bad man because he did not do his civic duty and go
Oh,
see Atomic Blonde this weekend.
not a true American. I'm so sorry.
And that is why the emojis won. Actually, it's
Uh,
not why the emojis won because Atomic Blonde took fourth place over this past weekend. So the emojis won, Dunkirk won, and I don't know what the third one that won was. Probably
Wonder
Girls
Woman.
Trip.
Let's say Wonder Woman. Um.
No, Wonder Woman is like in ninth place.
Uh.
The
the
last
day has finally come.
vestiges of Princess Diana, unfortunately, or Diana Prince. That's weird, right? That's
Yeah.
weird that there was a
A
Princess
little weird.
Diana and her name is Diana Prince.
Oh my God, that is a little weird. So the Emoji Movie, huh? I just
Frasier,
kind of.
Frasier, Frasier joke. I just gotta give credit where credit's due. Because Daphne dressed up like Wonder Woman once. No, no, no. Roz dressed up like Wonder Woman, and they made that whole Diana Prince, Princess Diana joke.
There you go, everybody. Go watch some Frasier. If you want to feel inadequate 30 years out, go watch some Frasier. Um, yeah, man. So the Emoji Movie came out this weekend and is apparently, as far as I can tell, god awful.
You know, you say that because you know what you didn't do? You didn't go see the Emoji Movie.
Did you see the Emoji Movie?
I saw the Emoji Movie last night at 9:15 p.m.
And so, what is your educated opinion of it?
It's fantastic. I have one problem with the movie. Spoilers for the Emoji Movie, kinda. Um, Everything has like a really smart logic behind it. Like everything makes sense in the film, and then they have to take Spotify to get from one part of the phone to another part. They'll follow the streams of Spotify, and the boat just magically appears. Like they get to Spotify, there's no boat for them to take, and then cut to like other part of the story, cut back to them in a boat on a Spotify stream, and I'm like, where the hell did that boat come from? Like literally, I have followed your bullshit
That's the,
movie up
that's
until
the
this
logic
point.
leap that you couldn't make. That is the logic leap you couldn't make. There's talking poop in this movie, but no, you can't get past the fact that the boat magically appeared.
That, what, everything else was it made sense,
Why
and
didn't they
then
go to
Magic Boat.
Kayak and be like, "Hey, we want to use your app for something real quick"? Like,
You know why? Because Sony doesn't own Kayak. Sony owns Spotify. Also, the whole problem with the Spotify scene is it makes no sense with any of the logic that came before it because they've been navigating via the desktop, and they run in between the apps. Did you ever see Hackers in the
yes,
'90s? You know
oh, of
how like
course.
the computer in Hackers looks like just like a bunch of office buildings. Every
Right.
one of the apps is an office building, basically. Like it's hackers. It's just hackers with better graphics. So they run around on the desktop, right? Which is just the background, the wallpaper of the phone. So they call it the wallpaper because you don't call it a desktop on your phone. So they run on that, and like if you look at your phone and you have the little apps, right? You have like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you have like little paths that they could run in and follow.
Nice call, by the way. On Girls Trip, taking number three. It definitely did take number three this week.
Yeah, no, I'm
Um,
good. Like,
and for anybody like losing faith in society right now, Dunkirk did actually win out the weekend. But Emoji Movie came in a close second, only $2 million difference. So
yeah, there was a moment on Saturday where everybody was like, "Emoji Movie could win the weekend."
mm, yeah, man. But yeah, I just just to throw this out there though. Also, I am not entirely. I'm not just pulling this theory that the Emoji Movie is just total crap out of my ass. It is riding at a beautiful 7% on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
It has
However,
3 good reviews.
However, I will point out that it is also close to 50% as far as the audience score goes. So either people are seeing it and they love it, or they're seeing it and they hate it.
I'm really happy
So,
that we jumped right into the Emoji Movie
well,
because,
why
like,
we have to address this. We talk about pop culture a lot on this show. We don't
exactly,
like to
and,
we don't
and
like to limit ourselves to only pop culture, but when something like the Emoji Movie comes along, we kind of have to take a moment and just take it in.
well, I was going to use it as I got into. I mean, the closest I would ever get into an internet fight today about the Emoji Movie, because someone put on their Facebook wall, oh, we wonder why the Emoji Movie isn't successful. It's a movie about freaking emojis. And what called my attention to this is Dale, who was with me last night when we saw it at 9:15, and was the only other person with me when we saw it at 9:15. Just the two of us. We could see it if we wanted, and we we enjoyed it. We enjoyed every moment of it, and that's fun.
Man, I'm happy somebody's seeing this. I don't know. Obviously, I'm going to at some point see it, right? Like,
Sorry. Hey, I just got a hot tip from the Newsline, about my information on the Emoji Movie. So that person did write that comment, and my sister had commented. That's what drew me to it, saying like it makes me sad to hear you say this about their opinion on the Emoji Movie. And then I commented, "What do you mean it's failing? Right? It was #2 at the box office, and like." It almost took #1. It's made back half of its budget of $50 million in one weekend, and I guarantee that it's going to make a profit.
well, and the thing about this is totally the type of movie that's going to make bank on merchandising, right? Like there's going to be stupid toys and apps and everything else like that that's going to come out of this. That Sony's going to be fine. Also, they didn't have to pay anybody for this movie. Like you said, a $50 million budget for an animated movie nowadays, an August released animated movie, $50 million. That's insane. That is insanely cheap. But I
Incredibly
mean,
cheap.
like, yeah, they just used a bunch of their own in-house like assets, and then they didn't have to go out looking for anybody's permission. And there you go, $50 million movie.
Anybody whose permission that they needed, they sold it as, why don't you give us money? And then people will know all about your communication thing. That
Exactly.
like
Uh,
so but the reason why I bring it up, the reason why that interaction online today was really prescient for what we do here at the Say Report, is that then that person said, I don't care about financially, I mean critically. And I'm like, see, but that's the problem. That's the big disconnect. And this is a person who always says the DC movies are great, blah 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 blah. And it's like, well, I don't need you to tell me the DC movies are great. They're making bank, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
clearly they're okay movies, right? People are going and seeing them, and they're making money. But you're like making sure that like the critics don't dissuade people. But it's like, if anything, the Emoji Movie proves that what the critics have to
Criticism means
say
nothing.
doesn't
Yeah.
really matter.
Yeah. No, criticism means nothing, and like it's this weird thing where we are used to seeing criticism in everyday life. We are used to seeing criticism as a tool in marketing, right? Like we think about it as you go to read the review, and if it's not good, then you assume people aren't going to go, right? But like you're saying, proven time and time again, that's just not what happens. So if it is a marketing tool, it's a terrible one. It never seems to work the way that you expect it to. So instead, like you got to think about it as its own different animal, right? Like what we're talking about is like it's an eye on the culture of the moment. Like the problem isn't don't go see the Emoji Movie because it's crap. The problem that critics should be talking about, if they're a good critic, they'll be talking about like, look, here's the Emoji Movie, and here's the thing about it that like is kind of a sign of the times, right? Bad or good, like this is the thing that exists right now and is able to make this kind of money and is able to kind of have this kind of impact because of A plus B plus C, right? And that's definitely what you and I talk about a lot, right? And I mean, hell, we went to school for arts to like talk about this sort of stuff all the time. I continue to this day to write about like nonsense, this exact same nonsense, right? This idea that like criticism's not there to help the movie make money or to stop the movie from making money. That's not the point of criticism, right? So like to try and equate the two is kind of a foolish effort, but we can't seem to get away from that, right? We just cannot seem to equate like newspaper criticism and financial gain or returns in this stuff. We can't seem to separate those two in the conversation, but we
Right.
totally have to.
And it's the sad thing is that correct, right? The artistic merit of something should be what we're judging it on, right?
Yeah.
In a
Yeah. Yeah.
perfect world, yes, the fact that all of these people who say they know what they're talking about don't like this movie should say that this movie is a failure, right? But at
Right.
the end of the day, the thing that is truly quantifiable in our world, for better or for worse, mostly for worse, is the almighty dollar.
Oh yeah. Well, right, exactly, man. Which is why you kind of have to remove it from a conversation about judgment, right? Like at the end of the day, it isn't about judging whether or not a movie is bad or good. It's about talking about what a movie does. And that's why you and I have always been willing, you know, and people of our ilk, people that listen to this show, like there's a reason why we are willing to go to the movies that nobody else is going to, talk about the things that nobody else is talking about. And at the same time, like you know, talk about the things everybody's talking about, but maybe in different ways than they're willing to talk about it. You know, like you and I had a whole conversation about Beauty and the Beast, and I know that we got some feedback from that from a couple of people that were like, yeah, but you know, it's successful and it's Beauty and the Beast, and I loved it. And it's like that's great, that's awesome, but that's not going to stop Devin and I from sitting around talking about like, was it worth making, right? Which was a great conversation to have about that movie. And the same goes for Emoji Movie. Like we should definitely be sitting here talking about like what does this mean that this movie can come out like this. I mean, we always know that when you're making a movie, especially a children's movie, like a huge aspect to all of that is consumerism, right? Like you're selling something to your viewer. You're trying to push something on them, right? Like look at like the Lego movie. All about selling you Legos. But at the end of the day, they still made a damn good movie out of that, right? Lego Batman, same way. Emoji Movie, you got to start wondering what it is that they're pushing with this one. And like that whole like concept and lifestyle and idea of like people living in and on their phones. And like the idea that we've become so okay with that that it's no longer just a trope or a concept. We are straight up making movies about our phones coming to life. Right? And like that's the conversation I want to have about the Emoji Movie, right? Like getting on there and talking about what critics are saying about it or how much money it's making. That just seems to be a whole other conversation than the one that I think we really should be having about the fact that this movie exists right now and is number 2 at the box office.
Well, okay, so the two schools, I can demonstrate it very well with two things that happened regarding the Emoji Movie. First off, my 22-year-old sister after the film said, "I really hope that that emoji like winds up on my phone because like at the end like a new emoji is invented."
Mm.
And she's like it will be a missed opportunity if it doesn't show up on my phone. And I'm like, "Oh my god, you drank the Kool-Aid." Like you drank the Kool-Aid, and you know what? That's fine because that
Yeah.
this movie presented to you a shiny, shimmering glass of Kool-Aid. Got the little condensation dripping down, and you're thirsty. And either you look at it and say, I'm gonna take a sip of this," or you say, "No, no, thank you." And she totally drank the Kool-Aid, and that's
Right.
fine because that's what they want to have happen, right? Like
Exactly.
success. But on the other end of it, I read a few of the reviews of the Emoji Movie, and love it or hate it, everybody mentioned that it had a pretty good message. And that message is that you should just be yourself. And you know, it's the message of like every freaking kids movie these days, right? So let's focus on that. Let's focus on its sheer lack of unoriginality, right?
Right.
Of
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
originality. I'm
yeah.
sorry. Like this is an unoriginal idea. We've seen it presented so many times before. You've just put it into something that's more pressing into the cultural zeitgeist. You've
Well,
made it
and
emojis having this adventure.
and then for me, that actually becomes a really interesting move because what you're then doing is you're shining a light on the idea that we've really limited ourselves in this day and age in the way that we talk to one another by text because we have kind of boiled everything that we feel down to just a dozen, 2 dozen emojis that we use on a regular basis. And then other than that, like we don't think about the gray area in between these emojis, which is what this movie is about, right? Like this idea that like there isn't an emoji yet that captures the way that I feel. And there's probably thousands of people out there that feel like that, hundreds of thousands of people out there that feel like that when they have these kinds of conversations, where they feel like, I just want to get this one point across to you, across this long distance, across this in the shortest way possible, and there isn't an image to cover that yet, right? And like that's actually a really interesting conversation because we've done it to ourselves. We've gotten so into this like short burst like texting one another, trying to make the message as simple and quick as possible. Look at things like Snapchat and Vine, right? Like we just want to get ourselves out there as quick as possible and as smoothly and as real as possible, but also like, you know, we've kind of screwed ourselves in some areas because now we are in a position where we can't truly express ourselves, and then it becomes a really interesting conversation. And now I really want to go see the Emoji Movie, right?
And I honestly, if you can see one of these showings that's going to have nobody there, because it will be a long, long time before I have another cinematic experience like them landing in the Just Dance app and having to dance their way across it to Wham's Wake Me Up Before You Go Go, and me and my sister singing along at the top of our lungs because there ain't nobody else in there, and trying to emulate the dance moves that they are doing on the screen. Like, it is like it's one of those cinematic moments that like comes around once in a lifetime. And
Yeah.
honestly, like I said, I'm always intelligent enough to know that seeing a film without an audience is automatically building in like two ladder rungs of enjoyment for me.
Hmm.
Like, especially because we had seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High beforehand. They did like a rescreening of Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and
Nice.
then we're like, that movie is short, right? Because we're like, there's
Yeah.
an Emoji movie at 9 o'clock, but there's no way we're gonna make it in time. Fast Times at Ridgemont High got out at 8:30, and we were 30 minutes away from the theater playing the Emoji movie around 9 o'clock, and we're like, here's the deal: fate is going to be our decision maker. We're going to try to get there, and if it hasn't yet started, we will see the Emoji movie. So we walk in right as the lights begin to dim in that auditorium,
Perfect.
and there is nobody in there. And it is that moment where it's like, silent victory, this might just be our movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it was just our movie, and it was fun because of that. So
Yeah.
also, like, I have that bias that I got to see it alone in one of the largest theaters that the Warwick Showcase has to offer.
Yeah, and
Like
you
the
get to enjoy
three
it.
level and just
Yeah, and you and Dale get to enjoy it in your own way, right? Like you didn't have to you didn't have to watch it, you didn't have to think about anybody else while you were seeing it, which is like the perfect way to see a movie, you know? Like, but yeah, I am more interested in the conversation that the Emoji Movie is going to make everybody have now than I am in any of the like stupid obvious criticism that I had of it beforehand. And I'm totally talking about myself here when I say stupid criticism. Like there's definitely like levels upon levels of like anger and stupidity that I feel about this movie existing. But I also recognize that like there's just like this was inevitable, right? And so like I'm past that point now. Now I want to talk about it. All right, this movie is out. It exists. It's number 2 in the box office. Like what does this mean about like the world right now and like children's movies, right? Because like I don't think you could have an Emoji Movie without the likes of like the Lego Movie, which was such a blatant big commercial for Lego. It's not even funny, right? But they were able to do it in a way that it was a fantastic little film, right? And then basically what they did is they proved like, no, you can do that thing that we did like in the 80s on television. You can make a movie all about selling a toy to kids and still have it resonate with them. Like, you know, that isn't a new idea by any stretch of the imagination, but it's been a long time that we've since there's been something that's come out that's worked that well as the Lego movie did. And so I think that's what you're seeing here is the Emoji Movie is Sony's attempt at making their own little version of the Lego movie. Something that's blatantly commercial, but at the end of the day, they made an attempt to put some heft behind it. And so like whether they succeed or not, we'll find out. I mean, clearly right now, financially they are, critically they're not so much. But like, who knows what that means in 2 years? You know, if we're talking about Emoji Movie 2, you know, like in 2 years on the Stay Report, we'll have a better idea of how they feel they did with this film.
well, because you'll also have seen that movie, hopefully, before we're talking about it.
Well, right.
All right, which brings me to the reason why you're a very bad man. Sejohn did not go see Atomic Blonde this weekend.
No,
And
no.
to be fair, I didn't ask him about it until yesterday. But the thing that I really struggled with is that it didn't even seem to be on your radar. Is that an okay like thing for me to feel?
Let's put it this way. Atomic Blonde is kind of one of those movies that I've been like softly aware of for a long time. Like you know, last year when like ripples of like this movie coming out was being talked about because you know with Wonder Woman coming out this year it kind of shined a light on the idea of female action in general, right? So then everybody was like, oh yeah, and then after that we're gonna get like even Atomic Blonde with Charlize Theron, right? And so like I've known about it in that context, but it hasn't actually been like really advertised in any of the mediums that I kind of take in advertisement, right? Now, to be fair, I don't watch cable. I only really see movie trailers that either I go look for or see in front of movies I have gone to see. But if that's just the case, is Atomic Blonde, I've maybe seen two previews for the entire time that it's been like being pushed. One was in front of Wonder Woman, which was like I got this wonderful cavalcade of female-led like action dramas. Like all of the trailers that I saw before the first time that I saw Wonder Woman were just like female after female after female just kicking ass, and that was amazing. So like that was really cool, but it was kind of wrapped up in a whole ball of other movies in that vein. So like I kind of got lost in the noise there. And then the only other time that I had seen it was I went looking for it because somebody before I'd even seen Wonder Woman had talked about it. And so like I lost track of it, to be entirely honest. Like I knew it was coming out and like it was kind of an exciting idea, but it wasn't a movie that honestly, I'm surprised it's out. If you had told me it wasn't coming out for another month, I'd be like, yeah, I know, that's a September movie, right?
Right, and I can totally understand that. I think the thing that surprised me about you not knowing it is, first of all, it is based on the Oni Press graphic novel, The Coldest City. And I know
Oh,
that you're a big fan of Oni Press's work.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it feels like, and that I'm like, this feels like a graphic novel that Sejohn has probably read or at least held in his hand at least one time in his life.
Yeah, I didn't see now. I didn't even realize that. Like, I know so little about the project other than the fact that it's just her just kicking ass and a bunch of like a really good cast. That's the other thing that I was aware of is the supporting cast on it is a phenomenal.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's totally worth it. So that was like strike one. I'm like, oh, I can't believe like he's usually you always seem to be the person who is up to date on like adaptations of that type of medium.
Right,
So I
right,
was a
right.
little surprised when I'm like, when you're like, no, I'm like, oh, okay. The second thing is, a lot of people were calling this female John Wick.
See now, if somebody had said that to me 2 weeks ago, you better believe I would have been in the seats. Like,
Ex- right? Like, and everybody was saying like the first time I heard about Atomic Blonde, had not seen a trailer, just the words Atomic Blonde in my Twitter feed, and it was Atomic Blonde looks like a female John Wick. That was all the tweet said. And then that night I saw it before Wonder Woman, and I'm like, why, yes, it does. Added to the list. So I was a little surprised because I know how much you care about John Wick, right? I know you like that film.
yeah,
But
yeah,
then one step beyond, and this is why I'm like, no research, all right? No research. Babu Bhatt says, nah, shake his finger at you. And is because, do you want to know who directed Atomic Blonde?
who directed Atomic Blonde?
David Leitch. Do you know who David Leitch is?
Who is David Leitch?
David Leitch is one of the two directors of the original John Wick.
Of John Wick. Yeah, one of the two guys that were the stuntmen or whatever it was on The Matrix, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the yeah. That's
So,
awesome.
so like, even outside of people saying, like, I had just heard Lady John Wick, right? It's
Hmm.
then directed by one of the two guys.
Yeah, yeah.
And I didn't know that until after I saw the movie.
Oh,
But, like, I hear that, I'm like, oh, yeah, definitely. And, right, just for, like, gits and shiggles, right? I can swear, but it was fun to say that. It is, the fact of the matter is that John Wick Chapter 2, right, was directed by the other half of that directorial duo of John Wick.
that's yeah. See, now I really want to just stop everything and go out and see this
Yeah,
movie.
right. Like
And like,
I knew that together. I knew that like this is how you feel, and that's why like you're a very bad man, Sejohn.
so like there's this weird like thing that I have to deal with, right? This idea that like, I'm not stupid. I know that I've done this. I've built a bubble around myself of like there are certain things that I like and I know I'm going to like. So like I invite them into the bubble and I go, but if I don't bring things into my bubble, there isn't anything getting in nowadays. I don't watch TV. I only watch Hulu and Netflix, and the Hulu I have, I pay specifically to not get advertisements. So like I don't get any ads there. As far as like looking things up online, I only see what like, like what IO9 is going to talk about that day, what Reddit is really kind of getting, getting their panties in a bunch about, like there's this whole world that I inhabit that kind of Atomic Blonde just never made an effort to get into. And I wonder if part of that is because they just assumed, like you did, that like as the audience, already knew about it and was either going to see it or not, right? Which was a mistake on their part. Like they really should have been trying to push that movie on me somehow, But who knows how they could have done it, considering how little I consume as far as advertising goes. So like where how does a movie like that miss me is like a huge thing for me right now, right? Like how did I miss this? And it's honestly it's because I've built myself a nice little safety net to to make sure that I enjoy what I see and I take in what I want to take in. So I'm glad that you brought this up because now I'm super excited to try something that like I kind of only, I'd heard about but wasn't really like gunning for, but now I'm super excited and I want to get out and see it like tonight.
Yeah, like and that's sort of why, like you said, you hadn't seen it, and I'm like that sucks because I really wanted to call this episode the Atomic Report and just gush over this film that somehow only stayed in the fourth place for the weekend. This
Yeah.
film that is really really good. This film that like I want to mention one thing, but the fact that I didn't know it going in made it better for me, and it is the smallest detail, but like overall because I didn't know it, it like was a great surprise for me.
Nice.
But here's how I will sum up what Atomic Blonde was for Devin Decker, and that is there have been some movies I've looked forward to this year, and those films are John Wick Chapter 2, Wonder Woman, Baby Driver, right? Like just to like big three movies I was sort of looking forward to in 2017, right?
Right. Yeah.
And Atomic Blonde is a better John Wick Chapter 2. It is a better Wonder Woman, and it is a better Baby Driver.
That's awesome.
Like it is like you go into movies with these expectations, and I didn't have that expectation for Atomic Blonde, right? I just
Right.
know I love Charlize Theron. I'm the guy who's watching Aeon Flux if it's on cable, right? That's me.
Right.
That's why they still show it. And so that's it. Like I was just going to watch Charlize Theron kick ass because it's great doing that.
Right.
And then it turns out that all of my expectations that I had initially had for other movies, the reason that they weren't exceeded. We got a fire alarm going on in my studio. All right, it's all set. It's been taken care of.
Everybody okay?
Yeah,
Everybody okay?
everybody's okay. You know, that just means that dinner's ready in the Decker house. But the reason why those expectations, like each one of them fell just a little bit short, was because the cinema gods were busy making all of the tribute for Devin Decker in Atomic Blonde,
Excellent.
a film that
Yeah.
I saw twice this weekend. And honestly, the reason for that is I had been up for 36 hours when I went to go see Atomic Blonde on Saturday, and I fell asleep for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. And Dale woke me up and she's like, "You were sleeping." And I'm like, "Oh God." And she's like, Do you want to know what you missed?" I'm like, No. Let's see how the movie works with those 5 minutes missing. But then the next day, I'm like, I need to see it. I'm rested. I slept for 12 hours. Let's go watch Atomic Blonde again, like rested, and see if I enjoy it as much or if it was just dumb action hitting like a sleepy mind. And not only did I enjoy it, but the scene that I slept through, like it got to the part where I remember drifting off, and I'm like, I didn't miss anything. And then, turns out I missed a lot. Turns out that what I slept through was the actual factual exposition dump of the film.
Oops.
No, but so the weird thing about it is that I missed that whole sequence, right?
Yeah.
It was like it didn't even exist in the movie. And I still loved the crap out of the film. So it made it feel that second time that I saw Atomic Blonde, like I was watching like a director's cut or an unrated edition where that scene was put back in.
That's excellent, man.
So like
That's awesome.
that was a cool experience.
Yeah.
Because like I can't tell you the last time I actually fell asleep in the theater. That's a lie. It was A Most Wanted Man, Philip Seymour Hoffman's last non Hunger Games film.
Yeah.
Because that
Man.
movie, incredible film, but like really not the movie to go see at 12:10 a.m. because it is
Slow, shall we
sharply
say?
paced,
Yeah.
which means that it moves slowly. So like there are just parts where you fall asleep, and like even falling asleep, like I can say I loved that film, and I have since watched it without that. But I slept for so much of A Most Wanted Man that those parts that I slept through, like really changed the experience. But it was cool that like a 5-minute cat nap made me miss the part of the movie that like wouldn't have made it fun for me, because then I would have been like, oh well, then this is gonna happen and now this is gonna happen because I've seen a movie before.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like it was an interesting experience, and I'm glad I got to live it.
That's awesome.
And
That's
the
weird.
last thing I'm going to say about Atomic Blonde, right, is even though it only got fourth over the weekend, it has still made about $4 million more than the original John Wick made its opening weekend.
Ooh, damn. Nice. Very nice. That's yeah, that's fantastic, man. And I'm glad that you've been able to have all these good movie experiences because I have not been able to do much in terms of that this past week. I'm getting ready to move, and moving is like a time sink.
Well, you know, it is going to be like where you sleep,
Yeah, yeah.
so it makes sense.
Well, and the other thing is that I am moving in with a significant other, so also there's this whole aspect to it where like we're trying to go through two houses worth of stuff right now and pare it down to one. So like on top of the fact that moving in itself is a pain in the ass, moving and trying to combine forces is really, really slowing things down. We're lucky though. We've got some time. We found a place nearby and we've got 2 weeks to move into it, which is like a dream, right? When you're moving, like you don't have to do it all in one day. We've actually got some time to spread it out. But man, like going through all your stuff, finding all of the old things that like you thought you had thrown out, like it is it is exhausting, like physically and emotionally.
I have never not lived at home. Like I mean, like I lived at college, but honestly, that felt like camp to me
Yeah,
because
yeah.
like I still had a house where everything else could stay that I didn't need. And the same with like working for Carnival. I'm like, yeah, it's like I'm going to Yagu for a year.
Yeah, man. Well, moving's a trip, man. He said as a pun. Um, he didn't intend, but he realized halfway through it was gonna be. No, it's like I pray you never have to. Let's put it that way, man. Like
Well,
I wish magic existed. Moving is one of those things you have to do in life that makes you really wish that Harry Potter was by your side. You know, like like packing up all of your stuff and trying to figure out what's important in your life and what's not is like I said, it can be emotionally exhausting on top of the fact that like having to move everything is just physically exhausting. Yeah, you end up going through a whole bunch of your things and you start questioning like what's important to you and what's not, what can get thrown away and what can't. And then the sad part is you look around at what you think you actually should keep and you realize it's not as much as you thought. I started this move thinking, oh man, we're gonna need like 4 bedrooms just to hold all of our crap. But then I looked at what I actually had left and I was like, oh, I don't think that we need much room at all.
actually, the
I
place
don't
we're
know.
moving is a little big, right?
Yeah, it's a little too much, maybe. But we're like I said, we're trying to combine forces on this, and me and my partner are just kind of like figuring out what we need and what we don't. The other thing is we've got a little life to worry about. She has a puppy, and like trying to figure out like how the dog is going to fit into all of this is like one of those things you don't think about until the last minute, and then suddenly like, oh right, and the dog has to move too. So now suddenly we're also thinking about another another life that we are responsible for. Um, but everything's cool. The dog's running around right now in a Thunder shirt, getting used to that so that she can be nice and calm on the day of the move. And she's got, we've been giving her melatonin treats to just knock her on her ass, which is pretty cute, pretty funny. Seeing the dog just kind of like high in her Thunder vest, just wandering around the house right now has been a source of relief.
Yeah, if the dog's calm, I can be calm.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like, everything else is going fucking crazy, but look at this dog falling on its ass. But yeah, man. So like that's what I've been like investing all of my time in is like just reevaluating my whole life. No big deal.
Well, thank God I went out and actually did things instead of just playing video games. Thank God I had like a 36-hour day of just like, I'm going to keep going. I
Yeah,
don't
man.
need sleep. I'll live forever.
We've been trying to fit things in here and there. Like right now, there's no internet at my apartment though, so I haven't been able to do much at my place, which is why I've started doing the recording and everything that I'm doing over here, right? And it's weird going back to an apartment that like barely has electricity right now. Like we've unplugged everything too, so like it's just this cave full of my stuff. And I just wonder, like I said, it makes you wonder, like, how much of it is actually important, right? And you're just like going through it all, and you're like, turns out that like I didn't really need as much internet as I was paying for because I haven't had it for a week at this place, and I'm fine, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And
oh
like
man,
also like stuff was is like, all right, I need my TV. I need my PS4.
yeah,
I could get clothes.
exactly.
She
I can
already
just buy
has a
clothes.
bed.
Yep. Don't need that. Don't need that. Yeah, man. So now I'm kind of hunkered down over at her place with just my PS4 and everything else is packed away. So I'm like trying to get in whatever like video gaming that I can. So I'm like playing basically I only actually physically own about 3 or 4 games. And the PS4 that I got is not one of the big memory ones. It's only like I think it's only 500 gigabytes. So like I can't keep a bunch of stuff downloaded and saved on it at one time. And she's now got my PS4, her Wii U, the PS3 that we were using, plus all of the computers, plus all of our phones, all going off of the same Wi-Fi. So like I'm really trying to limit how much of her Wi-Fi I use because we're gonna hit that data cap like instantly if I do too much. So I'm just basically playing through the few games that I have, which are like Batman and Bioshock, and then on top of that, I've got Bit Trip Runner downloaded on my and the Witness. So like that's why I'm just like flying through those. So yeah, that's why the stream's been as interesting as it has been for the last few weeks, is because all I've really got to play right now is the Witness and Batman.
Yeah, but to be honest, I would never play The Witness, so it makes me very happy that you are playing it.
Yeah,
Because it's like,
good.
I probably would never do this game, but like, it's like I'm playing it because Sejohn's playing it.
Yeah, well, and like I said, like this whole move has made me pare my life down so much that I am just kind of really focusing on some very specific things. So having something like The Witness is a phenomenal game to have in this situation because it is one of those games that like demands that you just kind of focus on it and only it. Like you don't really have time to really get out there and stretch your legs with too many other games because even when you're not playing The Witness, you're playing The Witness. Like it's this crazy thing where after a while, those line puzzles and the thoughts and the ideas that that game forces you to have are the kinds of thoughts that kind of stick with you even after you're not playing the game anymore. So here I am running around like in Bioshock and Batman, and then I'm like, oh, that puzzle I was looking at in Witness actually pause, and then I'm sitting there like scribbling notes, and then the next thing I know, in the 2 hours I have to play video games, I've only played about 20 minutes of Bioshock, but I've spent the other hour and 40 minutes writing down answers to the Witness I think I might have, and then I go on the Witness, and 90% of that is wrong. So it's it, it's perfect. It's definitely it's a good little, well, like I said before, like I kind of built this nice little safety net for myself right now where like I don't have much because everything's packed away and ready for the move, but what I do got is definitely keeping me busy. So the stream's been really good for that. I'm really excited though. I think this week on the stream I'm finally going to break into doing some BioShock for everybody.
That'll be exciting.
um yeah, yeah. I do have to laugh though because you and I have talked about this, and I talk about it on the stream a lot actually. But this idea that we talked about, like trying to keep things relatively like family friendly is not the right word. You and I have been trying to figure out the right word for it, but yeah, trying to keep things kind of user friendly, shall we say, for right now. And Bioshock, I forget how really terribly violent those games can be if you want. I was playing through Bioshock Infinite and like I played for about 2 or 3 hours and then remembered there's an entire like level to the combat in that game where you can just do insta kills essentially. Like if you get a guy's health down low enough, you don't have to keep like wailing on him. You can just hold down like the triangle button and you'll just instantly just take them out. But man, it's so vicious. It is some of the like most vicious stuff I've ever seen in a Bioshock game, at least, right? Like, and so I've completely forgot that was even part of the combat until, like I said, like 3 or 4 hours in, a prompt came up that was like, "Hey, you're wasting a lot of time and energy just trying to like kill these dudes when all you have to do is just hold this button down for a second and we'll just take care of it for you." Like it's part of the it's actually like almost part of the narrative the way that they put it in. It's just like, just so you know, you don't have to keep doing this for like 3 hours. You can do this in about 5 minutes. And it's like, oh right, okay. And it makes that game go so much faster, but it also makes your character so much more brutal of a character. Like it's a really interesting mechanic that I completely forgot was in that game because I haven't played Infinite since the first time it came out. What, like 4 years ago at this point?
I don't know. I imagine so. I imagine that Infinite is one of those games from then. It's a game that just. Here's my Bioshock story, and it's a sad one. I bought a copy of Bioshock, but I was in the middle of playing other games at the time, and a friend of mine was like, and I got it used too. I got it used because I worked at Hollywood Video, so I got a used copy of Bioshock, and it cost me like maybe $5, right? So like, don't cry for me when this story is said and done. But a friend's like, "Oh, Bioshock, I've been meaning to give that a shot." I'm like, "Oh yeah, you can take it, right? Like I'm playing all these other games, I'll just get it back from you, right?"
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
play through all those other games, right? And we're
Hmm.
hanging out at this house. I'm like, "Oh, you know what? I'd like to grab Bioshock from you. Like I think it's time, right, for me to do Bioshock." And he's like, "I traded that in at GameStop like a while ago." And I'm like,
Oops.
"What?"
That
He's
was
like,
my thing.
yeah, I thought you didn't want it. I'm like, no, you wanted to play it. I said I'd let you try it. And he's like, oh yeah, I tried it. I hated it, so I traded it into GameStop. And I'm like, no, that's not how that works.
Yeah, what do you do? That's not good. That seems like a terrible friend.
Yeah, I don't talk to him anymore.
Oh man, well that's a shame, man, because
Yeah.
you should totally give that a shot because I don't know, like BioShock's it's hard for me to get into right now because BioShock is one of those games that was so important to like me as a gamer that it has actually become like the basis for a lot of what I do like academically, like the writing that I do on video games for like my dissertation and stuff like that was all kind of born out of my writing that I was doing for BioShock. And so like the way that that game the first game has a very anybody that hasn't played it like it has a spine to it that's all based in Ayn Rand and like the and Atlas Shrugged and that whole story of just like every man should be out for themselves and if everybody's out for themselves then society will only succeed and anybody that can't succeed well they'll die off so that's okay so society doesn't need them right and it's like this whole like weird without getting in too deep into the politics of Ayn Rand right now, like it's this whole weird look at like can a society succeed in that way, right? But then layered on top of that, it's also a video game, so also you get to like kill people and you gain magic abilities to like make people blow up in flames. So like, so it has this really interesting story to it, but also because of the fact that it's a video game, it has a lot of other really like surface level mechanics. So the marriage of those two was kind of what sparked a lot of my interest in that game to begin with, right? And then by the time you get to Bioshock Infinite, it's a whole there's a whole other side to the story of its like whole exploration of like basically what it means to be a video game character and a man and it's really weird. It's such a bizarre like the finale of Infinite for anybody that has not played it. I don't want to ruin it because I feel like everybody should experience for themselves if they want to. But if they don't, just go look it up and read what happens at the end of that game because it is batshit insane. And like the way that it kind of like wraps things up and brings all of the Bioshock stories together and actually kind of brings like all stories ever written together into like one concept is like really weird and really cool and really important to me as like as a writer, as a gamer, as a fan of pop culture. Like the way that it kind of hits on all of that for me is why I kind of love those games. And so I've been playing through the entire series because again, everything else I have is packed away, right? But one of the few things that I still have out is my physical copy of the BioShock collection for PS4. So I started with one at the beginning of the summer, and I played one, two, some of two's DLC. Now I'm playing through Infinite, and when I finish, I'm finally going to play Infinite's DLC, and that's what I want to do on the stream because I never got to do that yet, and I want to do that. I want to experience that with everybody that watches.
Well, if you can take some of your research money and buy me a copy of the Bioshock collection, I'd give it the old college try.
Yeah, well, I will say that for anybody interested, the collection is actually running only like $35 at GameStop right now, and so you get the three mainline games, which right there is pretty good. But then on top of that, you get all of the DLC for all of them as well. And Bioshock Two has a fantastic DLC called Minerva's Den, which is basically just another mini Bioshock game. Like I would say, the average Bioshock game takes probably about 30 hours. Minerva's Den takes about 10. So like it's a start to finish BioShock game. It's just that they do it in 10 what they do in 10 hours what the other games take a while to do. And so what's awesome about that is that like you get pretty overpowered in about like 5 or 6 hours, which inevitably happens in every BioShock game, but that usually takes you about 25 hours. In Minerva's Den, you're there instantly. You have all the powers that you want, all of your guns are upgraded, and you're just taking dudes out left and right. So you feel super powerful. And then on top of that, the story is a really good Bioshock story and a really phenomenal like sci-fi exploration of artificial intelligence is the big backbone for that one. So
Very
like,
cool.
yeah, and then Infinite has its own little DLC, which is the one that I haven't played yet, called Burial at Sea, and that's actually when the characters from Bioshock Infinite somehow work their way into the story of Rapture from the first two games. And so I've never played that before, so I'm super excited to explore that with everybody on the stream.
And me, I'm just playing Legend of Zelda still. I found a way to randomize all the entrances so that the
Nice.
doors lead to different places.
Well, and like you and I are
And
gonna have to
that's been
talk once
working.
once I get moved and get my rig set back up, my PC like ready to go. Like I do want to jump in and start doing some good stuff like that. So you and I are gonna have to talk about that, and maybe
Oh,
we
I'd
can
like
go
to
to
train you, Sejohn, because there's been
yeah,
all these tournaments that's like two versus two on these randomizers of Zelda. and
Yeah.
nobody is willing to like try to learn the game to the level I would want them at.
All right. Well, I'm
So
totally willing to give it a
I
try.
love
And
that.
like,
I love to hear that.
yeah,
But
anybody that's listening, if they have any ideas for things that I should definitely try getting on, like once I get moved and settled, like I'm so into trying just all sorts of weird stuff for the stream. I think that's part of what I want to try and do with my aspect of it, and also just more in my gaming life in general, is I want to start getting back into some weird stuff. Because when I was in college and a little bit after college, like I got way into like humble bundles and like going into the Steam Maker stuff and like seeing what people were throwing out there that was like half finished. Like I loved doing that sort of stuff, and then getting in on the really weird games like was always really fun for me. When Double Fine did their whole we're going to put like a bunch of small games out and just see what you guys think, I like pre-ordered all of them, and then they all ended up being fabulous games. Costume Quest, Stacking, like they all ended up being perfect games. So like I'm super excited to get back into some weird stuff, I think.
I love it. I love everything. And now to sort of end the episode, I'd like to tell you where I am in Resident Evil 4, if you'll
Yeah.
allow me.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's do the weekly wrap up of Devin's Resident Evil experiences.
Well, I only have 1 month left until summer's over, so I got to really ramp it up.
Where is Leon Kennedy today?
Leon Kennedy just beat a big fish with only harpoons.
I love these games. They're so ridiculous. Not the first giant fish that you've taken on in a Resident Evil game, by the way.
The first
If
one that
anybody
I've ever
remembers,
taken on, but
if
yes.
anybody ever remembers the Mama Shark in Resident Evil 1 that you go after in the tank, but this fish is a bad fish.
Oh, God. So here's what I've learned about Devin Decker in Resident Evil 4. And that is that I'm going to play this game my way.
Yeah.
I like Frankie Sinatra say, I'm going to do it my way. And my way involves a lot of finding what it is I need to get,
Yeah.
probably getting killed, loading the next save, and then just booking it to the items that I need and then progressing the storyline.
Right.
So,
You're just like you're basically like, all right, I know I'm not going to live this time, so let me make sure I know exactly what I need to do the next time.
all right,
Yeah, so you're basically doing live die repeat is all over.
yep,
Perfect.
I'm totally playing it like Dark Souls, which is a game that I love. So like, and by doing that, I'm like, I don't want to fight stuff. Fighting stuff is stupid in this game because everything is bullet sponges, and like
What?
I'm so
Well, and I will
afraid-
say that as much as they upped the combat, like the ability to be combative in Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil had never really been about fighting things. It had always been about avoiding the fight. So that's a good conclusion to come to, my friend.
Thank you. I felt like I gotta be playing this wrong, but it's fun now. Like I'm
No,
actually enjoying it. First of all, I had to change my control scheme. The second I changed my control scheme, game changer. He
Surprise.
said as a pun, not really meaning it. Yeah, like the fact that like I can aim, like once I go into tank mode, I can just aim with the same stick. I don't have to like try to do it with the right stick. Game changer, right? If I can't move with the left stick while I'm in tank mode, why do I gotta move my stick?
Exactly.
Stupid that this is not the original control scheme. I'm talking to you, Resident Evil 4. But then like really, I've been playing it like like you said, like Groundhog Day, live, die, repeat, where I'm just like, I'm going, I'm gonna run, and I'm gonna get it. And here's the reason why, and it goes back to Joe Kadowski again. And like really, I've learned that like watching him play those first few minutes of the game really effed me up on it. The fact of the matter is, he's like, yeah, you don't get bullets, man. Like, you can't ever buy ammo. It's just what you find. So you're going to be, like, real sparingly when you use your weapons. And I'm like, so afraid to shoot stuff. Because I, like, don't want to run out of bullets.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
you do and you don't.
Found, like, the merchant's house.
Mhm.
And, like, all he has is, like, bullets in front of him. And I'm like, I bet I can buy ammo here. Nope. No. Why would you think we'd let you buy ammo? So the game could be fun? No, we don't want the game to be fun.
You know who you sound like? You sound like the perfect candidate for a Resident Evil 5 player. That's what you need. Because you could straight up buy ammo in that game and weapons and all sorts of upgrades
No, like,
and stuff.
honestly, where I'm at right now, I am enjoying it. I'm just like, I'm not going to buy the medium attaché case. right? Unless like someone tells me you need to buy the medium for the large to show up in the shop, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna waste my time
I don't know if that's the case.
because it's not
It
much
might be,
bigger
but
and it's a
yeah.
lot of money. And I'm like, nope, it's working now, right? If I just don't shoot everything and I just run and get what I need and then continue, I just killed a big fish.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just killed a
Well, and
big fish.
that's actually something that I personally struggle with when I play games like Resident Evil and Bioshock is as a series also has this element to it as well. Is like I always want to make sure that I'm constantly upgrading and buying better stuff, but also then like it hits a point where you're like, wait a minute, do I really need to be spending this money on this, or could I be spending it somewhere else in a better fashion, right? So for you right now, it doesn't make sense to buy that case because like what is the benefit to it? Right now, you seem to be doing fine without it, and it is a lot of money, right? And I run into that where I'm just like, I have the money to do this, but I don't see a reason to do this. But there's a part of me that completionist part of me, I guess, that's like buy everything you can. And what they do in BioShock that fucking gets killer is by BioShock Infinite, you can't just get everything. There's no possible way to get everything unless like unless you're meticulously like checking every loose space for change and money, right? Other than that, like you're just not going to get everything. So you need to come to terms with the fact that maybe you're not going to upgrade every gun in your arsenal, or you're not going to get every superpower that like up to its highest level that you could, right? I love games that let you do that. Like I'm thinking of like Saints Row or something like that, where it just keeps going until you've got everything, and that like feels really good to play an RPG and then be able to like get every stat up to fucking max. But also it overpowers you to a point where it breaks the game. And in a game like Saints Row, that's kind of the point. But in Bioshock or Resident Evil, like breaking the game actually would ruin the game for me. So like there's this weird aspect where I'm happy that I can't just buy everything and become overpowered, but also there's this little piece of me that's then like, oh, I hate playing the money management game though. I hate that aspect of those games.
Yeah, I agree. I 100%. And you know what? Like, really, like, has just killed me with that, and it's a weird thing to like name check, but Luigi's Mansion, like one of the
Mm.
best GameCube games, right? Easily in my
Yeah, yeah,
top five. Had a sequel on DS called Dark of the Moon,
right.
and there are upgrades in that game. But by the end of the second mansion, I had bought everything.
Yeah,
And I'm just like, well, now it's not fun, right? Because I'm
yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
working to make my character any better. And it's
Right.
not like I did a whole lot of like backtracking or anything like that.
Mhm.
I like just played the game as well as you're supposed to play a game that's about finding treasure and ghosts. And it's like, oh yeah, you got like the super vacuum cleaner, and I'm like, how? How do I already have the super vacuum cleaner? No, I want more.
Yeah. Well, and it's that same part of you that doesn't want to play a game on easy, right? Like you always want to kind of start off on normal because if it's too easy, where's the challenge, right? Like where is the game? If the game isn't challenging you, where is the game? And like so like I said, I appreciate the idea that there's all of this stuff available and you do have to make these decisions about what do you want now, what's going to help you later, you don't quite know. Like I understand and appreciate that aspect, but I really just kind of hate like that moment to moment where you're just like, ah, do I buy this now or do I save it and wait? I don't know. I just don't know.
Really, I like that like normal hard mode is what I've started playing on, and I
Hmm.
totally blame it on God of War 3
Hmm.
because I had played the first two God of Wars and I destroyed them, right? Like
Yeah,
just
yeah,
demolished those games. Love them.
right.
God of War, great series. Very much looking forward to the PS4 version that's coming out. Um, but I had a friend over as I was about to start God of War 3, and I'm like, oh, do I go normal or like is normal okay? And he's like, you beat the other two games, like they were almost too easy for you. Play it on hard mode. Be an adult, right? And I'm like, fine, I'll play it on hard mode. Screw you, right?
Right.
And playing it on hard mode, like, first of all, at the time I was crazy about trophies. Like that's all I cared about. By
Yeah.
playing it on hard mode, I was able to unlock every trophy in one playthrough.
Right,
So like that was
because
super
when you
cool.
complete things, yeah, when you complete things on hard mode, you not only get the hard mode trophy, but it unlocks the other stuff too. Yeah, yeah. Because like there's a bunch of stuff tied into now go and beat it on this, now go and beat it on that. That's one of the trophy problems I have with Resident Evil is there's no way that I could play Resident Evil on anything harder than the normal pace mode. But man, so many trophies are tied to do this on hard mode, do this on hard mode without getting shot, do this on hard mode and don't get the grenade launcher. And it's like, oh my God. Like I'm never gonna play it on hard mode. Never mind the fact I'm never gonna play it on hard mode and do as well as these trophies demand of me.
Apparently, you can just run by stuff. I mean, like, honestly, like, I might try to platinum Resident Evil 4. That's a total fucking lie. There's no way. It is just like a struggle for me to do it. Like, the
Yeah.
fact that I played for straight up an hour and a half today, like, blew me away. Like, I'm like, how did I get myself to play for an hour and a half? So, also, we talked about, like, how it takes time to get into a game. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have gotten into the game. And
Good.
the way that I've gotten into the game is I don't give a shit about your story, Resident Evil 4. I really don't. I don't give two. Well, I don't care.
I don't
What
think
you
they
got to
did.
say?
If you
Like,
actually like, try and follow that story, you realize pretty quickly. I don't think they gave a shit about their story either.
so like, I'm like, I don't give a shit, Resident Evil 4. I'm skipping all your cutscenes.
Nice.
Thanks for playing. Number 2, I ain't killing nothing unless I have to. And like, thanks for having all these guys who throw dynamite, because I'm real good at shooting their hand. They drop the dynamite, 7 zombies done.
Yep. Nice.
So
Nice.
like I found a way to have fun with it. So I am looking forward to it more, and hopefully in a week's time I'll have made a little bit more progress than beating the first 3 like sections of the first chapter.
Yeah.
But yes, it has been quite the adventure for me.
Excellent, man.
Playing
Good
Resident Evil
stuff.
4. So I'm glad I made that ridiculous promise, and we'll
And
see what happens.
that
Right?
wraps up this week's edition of Devin Decker's Resident Evil Minute.
It was longer than a minute. Let's just be straight. Oh God, Sejohn, do you have anything else to add, man?
Not for this week. I'm excited to talk to you guys again next week, though. Check out the streams. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, check it out. Lost Soul Limit. That's us streaming on Twitch. We got entertainment there Monday through Saturday from 7 to 9, and then Sundays we give you a lovely chill session from about 9 to noon. We have someone playing. Cyber Sasquatch is playing.
Lazy Sundays. That's what they are.
That's what it is, right? Just wear your PJs and watch someone else play video games.
Perfect.
You eat cereal. Oh, cereal is so good. Also, if you want to yell at me about anything in my opinions this week, I am at Devin D. Decker on Twitter.
And if you want to see the Emoji movie and tweet me a bunch of different emojis about it, you can find me at Siege versus the World.
But if you want to get in touch with both of your host companions, then we're always available at the Say Report on Twitter.
There you go.
Until next time, I'm Devin Decker.
I'm Sejohn Sarwick.
William, take us home.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devin Decker and Sejohn Sarwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.